I want to start by saying that ten wins usually get you in. It's the first thing that I want to make abundantly clear. The Cowboys have 4 games remaining. They're currently 6, 6, and 1. A win against the Lions tonight would have put them approximately 40% chance to make the playoffs. A loss, as we know now, they lost. They're currently 6, 6, and 1. They now have a 10% chance or less at making the postseason. As we mentioned over a week ago, the Wednesday prior to the Chiefs matchup on Thanksgiving, the Cowboys did not have to win out because of the logic of, generally speaking, 10 wins is going to give you a chance to make the postseason. You're generally going to have a pretty decent chance if you win 10 football games to see postseason play. This year, unless you win the division, barring something crazy, that seems less likely. There's currently 4 teams in the National Football Conference, the NFC, that have 7 wins or more. All right, but here's the thing: the Eagles go 2-5 to close their season, the final 7 games, which they're currently 0-2. They lose 2 or more of their next 4 games. Then the Cowboys have a 51% chance to make the postseason. So they're going to need lots more help now than they would have otherwise had they won tonight. But point being, first and foremost of this show, this post game, instant reaction right here is that it's technically still not over. We're going to get to some more ugly stuff in just a moment. All right, but the second thing that I want everybody to realize here is, as poorly of an officiated football game as I believe that was, I think we can all agree, from both sides of both fan bases, by the way, have some ground to stand on here. Just tough all the way around. Couple questionable calls, couple just really weirdly timed ticky-tack laundry launched onto the field of play in incredibly critical situations. All right? As poorly of an officiated football game as most of us will agree that was, this is point number 2, the thing that I want to make abundantly clear before we get too lost in our conversation here, is the poorly officiated football game didn't lose you the game if you're a Cowboys fan. That's not what got you beat. It may have kept you from coming back from a double-digit deficit, a 2+ score deficit, and their 44-30 loss on the road in the Motor City against the Detroit Lions. The Cowboys had a chance to come back and win that football game. 18-point deficit at its peak. Just 2 weeks ago, they erased a 21-point deficit against the Philadelphia Eagles to come back and win. So we've seen within a span of 14 days that an 18-point deficit, albeit on the road, was technically not impossible. It wasn't an insurmountable lead. But the officiating isn't what kept the Cowboys from getting there. That's not what lost the Cowboys the game. That's what I want to make abundantly clear. One team played bully ball, as we say, as we often discuss here, is one of the most significant data points to evaluate. Just the eye test will tell you who's playing with more effort throughout the football game, 4 full quarters. That's going to be the team that has the better chance to win. That was the Lions tonight. Blue collar is the title of this project here. That's the thumbnail text. They played like their collar was a little bit more blue than the Cowboys was. And I thought the Cowboys, even still, they fought. They played tough. There's a couple critical components, critical developments that occurred in this football game that I think were ultimately the difference. One or two of those are going to be obvious, and another one not quite so much. But I want everybody to at least hear me say first, before we get lost in the conversation, the poorly officiated football game is not what kept the Cowboys from coming back. It may be what eliminated them erasing a multi-score deficit, but it's not what caused the deficit to begin with. Very clear, very important distinction to be made there with that discussion. All right. 40 plus % chance to make the playoffs with a win for the Cowboys. Right around 10% or less right now. We're going to talk about everything. We're going to unpack it all. Let's evaluate where do we go from here. All right. So the first thing that probably deserves mention before we continue is elaborating on the 4 games remaining for the Cowboys, currently 6-1. 10 wins usually gets you in. What has to happen before they get to 10 wins? All right, so they got to win out from this point on. There is no more. There may not have been before tonight. We predicted before the Chiefs game that they could slip up one more time with 6 to play. They've now slipped up. They're 1-1 since I've said that. Okay, 4 to play. Home against the Vikings 10 days from now on Sunday, December 14th. And then follow that up by home against the Chargers 7 days from that day on December 21st. All right. I've got here 10 wins usually gets you in. The 2 toughest remaining games are at home. The other 2 will be fighting for draft position. All right. So you've got home against the Vikings 10 days from today, home against the Chargers December 21st. And then on the road at Washington December 25th. And on the road at the Giants 10 days from that day on January 4th, just after New Year's Day. Okay? The 2 teams that we mentioned at the end, the last 2 games there, at Commanders, at Giants, those 2 teams currently have 2 and 3 wins, respectively. 3 and 2 wins, I'm sorry. In the order of the schedule, the Commanders have 3 wins. They're 3-9 right now. The Giants are 2-10. Both of those teams, 2 weeks from now, especially, are going to be fighting for draft position. Of course, you know how it goes, man. Players are always resume seeking, right? They're trying to bolster themselves for their future contract and for other teams. Every single Sunday or Thursday or Monday, as the NFL dominates all 365, more or less. They're interviewing themselves, right? It's an interview on broadcast for the entire world to see. All 22 available if you want to see it and get even deeper than most are willing to dive. But point being, players don't tank, right? Organizations can absolutely do so. They can fire coaches mid-season. They can bench veteran players for a rookie or a second-year player. They're trying to have an evaluation for their future, their plans for that guy. They can slack off in the preparation process leading up to that week and that matchup, right? In the film room, et cetera. And put, in theory, call a game that would better position their franchise when the draft rolls around April 2026. Okay. Those are very real things that can occur. But the reality is organizations can tank. Okay. Players can't. Players got families to feed. Players have livelihoods to uphold. Players have resumes to build for their futures. They do not take games off. Team wide, right? Certain guys are there are exceptions that can be made. Obviously, there's bad apples in every example, every fan base, every example, anything that you can possibly think of. There's good and bad, right? But you get the point. Teams don't tank. Organizations can. Players don't. So it's not a given. But what I want to make sure is understood here is that the Commanders and the Giants will both, in theory, be lobbying for draft position, for the betterment of their future. Lose the battle to win the war, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing, that to me, I'm a lose sleep over, and I'll never understand. But when I'm watching, let's take it a step further back. When we're breaking this game down weeks in advance, and forgive me, I don't. It's late, and I need sleep. I don't have the time right now to go back and pull the clip that I want you to see. But it was posted 2 weeks ago, or actually may have been 3 weeks ago now. Whenever the Lions played the Eagles, what did Vic Fangio do? He made sure to send more than 4 and be more assertive, more willing, more aggressive with their approach to playing man coverage than most teams otherwise would. Why? Because Vic Fangio knew the things that we have known for a significant amount of time, even superseding that game. So well in advance of even the Eagles doing so. That's why we talked about it, because we had already been passionate about it. We saw it unfold, and then boom. Got to make sure that our fans hear this. How do you beat Jared Goff? You make him move his feet. That was in our preview yesterday. The reel that we posted on Instagram. I didn't have time to get to YouTube. Okay. Holiday season, 3 small children, 2 small businesses. I don't know what else you want me to say. Life happens. 3 short weeks in a row for the Cowboys now. Right? We just wrapped up the 3 games in 12 and a half days stuff. I'm doing the best I can. And I want to be here more. But my family comes first. Right? But what did we talk about? It was move Jared Goff's feet and you win. Right? Do we understand that? Surely we do, right? Lil John? Yeah! Okay. We knew that. What about you, Linda? Linda, you hear me?
Guys,
Linda, listen, Linda. Listen.
Okay, what?
What? Why is Matt Eberflus going away from their opening game plan just because you have a fumble from your 4-year extended tight end? You have an unfortunate deflected pass, a contested ball from your quarterback and your soon to be, at least most fans hope, second $30+ million receiver. Got a couple turnovers in the first half that put your team in a bad position. Yeah. Especially against that team, the blue collar team known for wanting and willing to bite your kneecaps off, desperate with their backs against the wall, with a losing streak like a beaming beacon, like reeling, to put it lightly, banged up, to put it lightly. I didn't know Amon-Ra St. Brown was going to play tonight until about 90 minutes before kickoff. They wanted it more than the Cowboys did. They didn't give up, but one team played bully ball, the other team played beta ball. And the team that played beta ball was the team that folded from their approach leading into that game just because their offense turned the ball over 2 times. I got issues with that. Especially when this guy right here with 3 small children and 2 small businesses, knows that you got to move Jared Goff's feet. He's an incredibly cerebral, and also an incredibly accurate quarterback, but infinitely much less so when you do what? Move his feet. Sweet feet ain't in his vocabulary. He wasn't gifted in that regard, the way that most other quarterbacks the current landscape of the National Football League and beyond. A statuesque player relative to the likes of Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Jaden Daniels, Justin Fields, Caleb Williams. List goes on and on and on. Dak Prescott even, if not for being banged up for most of this game as well. Jared Goff more so than most. You move his feet, borderline inept. And guess what the Cowboys did? Our friend Bobby Belt here says the Cowboys pressured Jared Goff 4 times on his first six dropbacks. 3 of those were blitzes, meaning 5 men sent towards the quarterback or more. 5 or more. Okay? They went on to pressure him just 4 times over his next 29 dropbacks. The Cowboys blitzed on 5 of those 29. So, in layman's terms, let's sum it up, right? Let's make it cleaner. Just shorten it, okay? The Cowboys sent pressure at Jared Goff, meaning Matt Eberflus dialed it up 3 times out of his first 6 dropbacks, okay? The remainder of the football game, in this case, I'm just going to ballpark it 3 quarters, I think, is what it would be. The Cowboys blitzed just 5 more times total on Jared Goff's ensuing 29. So they blitzed on 3 of the first 6 and then proceeded to do so on only 5 of the next 29. One team played beta ball. The other team played blue collar, but bully ball. You have guys like Savone Revel Jr., 6'2", 200 pounds. Okay? People are probably going to roast me continually, and I'm okay with it. I knew what I was getting into when I posted it. Jameson Williams and Savone Revel Jr. Okay? Savone Revel Jr. is a tough guy to run with. One of the toughest in the league. One of the fastest men in the National Football League. Okay? He's technically wide open here by the NFL standards, but for Savone Revel Jr., as a 6'2", 200-pound rookie fresh off a devastating knee injury, this is a beautiful sight. Jameson Williams creates separation here. This is a well-ran route. And this is one of the most elite speedsters, just pure ability to accelerate and decelerate. Not necessarily route runners, not necessarily high point ability, not necessarily best out of the catch. I think he's great in all those regards to some degree. I'm not saying he's the best, but one of the best runners in the sport. An $85 million man, Jameson Williams, line up with a rookie, fresh off a devastating knee injury, an ACL tear at East Carolina. Around a year ago today. 6'2", 200 pounds. Hey, Jameson Williams, a much different stature than even that of Savone Revel Jr. But you'll see, just watching the athlete move, look at the guy who's known for physicality, who's known for length, who's known for being a man cover corner. It's part of the issue that I have with Matt Eberflus, asking his man cover corners like Deron Bland, Savone Revel Jr. not play man. I don't get that. That doesn't add up to me. I don't understand. Especially when I know that I have to move Jared Goff to win. And when I do move him, even ever so slightly, I do win. But we're not asking him to hold the football. His final 29 dropbacks, there was only pressure sent 5 times. Now, that does help when the Cowboys offense spots the defense 2 turnovers. Or they don't spot them any help in that regard, I guess I should say. But 2 turnovers in the first half puts the defense in a bad spot. So the Cowboys, yeah, technically in Eberflus's case, in his favor, they're on their heels most of that football game. Playing the run. Maybe rightfully so. But when you know that one negative play, a splash play, especially after you're down 2, when you're -2 in the turnover department, what do you got to do, man, to fight your way back into this football game against a team that's known for fighting? This was the final test. Cowboys didn't pass, but they didn't do themselves any favors. I want my press man cover corner, Savone Revel Jr., even if it is Jameson Williams. Because before I get beat 40-plus yards down the field, I know that I'm asking Jared Goff to hold the ball longer than 1.8 or 2.1 seconds. He don't want to stand back there in the pocket and hit that deep shot because he knows pressure's coming, especially up the middle. Why would I not try to complement my pass rush, my defensive line that we watched overwhelm the Lions in the first couple drives? I don't understand the passive approach, even down multiple scores early in the first half. If I'm allowing them to sustain drives, I'm not doing myself any favor.
No.
6'2", 200, turning and running with a 4'3" guy.
No.
Even to be like, once again, I'm acknowledging that's wide open by NFL standards. That should be a touchdown.
No.
But we're assuming that the quarterback has time or even trusts himself
No.
in the pocket on a deep drop, letting the ball go about 18 at 18 yards or so. Right there, ball's gone. Even, leaving. It would have ripped it.
No.
But he didn't rip it because he hesitated. But maybe that second read he hesitates on because my 6'2", 200-pound cyborg at corner, as a rookie, albeit after a devastating knee injury just 3 years into his soon-to-be illustrious NFL career, we want to ask him to bail. Here's another example of what I mean when I say ask him to bail. Don't allow the guy who has rare size, speed, physicality, hips, and length at the cornerback position to do that. We're not allowing him to use one of the rare traits in the sport to his advantage. His length is useless if omitted or emitted or deployed in a passive approach. That's not his style, man. That's not what he did. To me, the Cowboys beat themselves in as many ways as the Lions beat them. Too many times I saw Kenneth Murray isolated in situations where I would like to think that my Mike backer has an opportunity to fill a gap and go make a tackle. But too many times, the same things are persisting where he is either slow to react, lost in coverage playing backwards, or hesitant and inviting or getting himself blocked by the climbing offensive lineman, H-back, or wide receiver. I think that play is also listed in this video too, if I'm not mistaken. Let me stop sharing just so it doesn't cause any sort of lags or anything like that. Kenneth Murray just doesn't it doesn't click fast enough for him, in my opinion. I don't understand why Logan Wilson isn't on the field more than 50% of the time at best. That confuses me just a little bit. Terence Steele and Nate Thomas were clearly outmatched tonight. They were a big part of the problem when you're trying to drop back, ask Dak Prescott to be the hero and throw the football 40 plus times to overcome a multiple score deficit on the road against another desperate football team. You're going to give up pressures in those situations. That's the way that this sport works. That's how this league is designed. Anybody can get you on any given Sunday, Thursday, or Monday. Right? It happens. Everybody's talented. But when you're down multiple scores, there's once again a reason the Cowboys being asked to overcome a 21-point lead 2 weeks ago against the Eagles. That's not supposed to happen. You don't see discrepancies in talent, okay? You won't find a spread from any sports book this calendar season, like usually the largest margin before any game begins against any team, you name it, the best team versus the worst team, whoever you think that is in your mind, those teams match up. Vegas won't have that spread more than 17 points. Ever. Ever. I mean, there's probably one or two circumstances in which their spread before the game begins has eclipsed that mark, that threshold. But generally speaking, any given week, largest spread you'll see is 11, 13, 12 and a half, right? Like you're not getting past that 13 to that 2 touchdown mark. It's just not, you don't see it. The Cowboys for the second week in their previous 3 games were tasked with another 18 plus point deficit to overcome. And in this league, especially against the 2 reigning defending Super Bowl champions in a 4-day span, and then the Darlings, the Detroit Darlings, the one of the crown jewels of the NFC in recent years, one of the better teams in the NFC in recent years. Injuries kind of bit them, each of the last two especially. But the Lions are them as far as effort, head coach, and explosive playability offensively that caters to the entire country. They're a dome team. They're oftentimes matched up with other teams who are high octane, and you see high scoring affairs. Even this one, 77 points were scored. Or 74, I guess. 44-30. 74 points were scored in this game. Any given spread, any given point total on any given Sunday, if you see a 52 point total, if you go look at whoever your sports book is, right, or you just go look at ESPN, any point total, you're going to see 52.5 at most. Like the average NFL game point total expected is in the 40, the upper 40s. So very, very low 50s, between 48 and 51 points, I'd venture to guess, is the average. Like the maximum, I'm telling you, is 52.5. Cowboys Chiefs this past week, I believe, was 52.5, for example. Like the implied team totals for any given team, like the number one team as far as implied team totals is 30. Right? If you're scoring on average of between 28 and 32 points a game, you're elite. If you're in the low 30s, you're top tier, like the Colts or the Cowboys this year, or the Lions even, I'm sure, are close up there now after a 44-point effort. But man, I saw missed tackles to a degree, like Savon Revel Jr. He kind of lost hold of David Montgomery. It was a tough angle, but I didn't see our defensive front hold up to the level that I expected. And I'm curious to go back and look and see how much of that is just four-man fronts against their jumbo set. I'm curious to know, because I couldn't sit there and track every single one of them. I'm trying to, as best I can, to process so much information and watch certain guys. But I felt like, man, I felt like we're just kind of getting pushed around a little bit. I don't know. That was interesting to me. I definitely didn't expect that. I definitely didn't notice Quinnen Williams as much as I expected to. But it just seemed like our defense was guessing and that they weren't entirely prepared. I have here, and I just want to reiterate, not dialing up Jared Goff is malpractice. Not saying fire anyone, but I just can't figure out how anyone isn't sending 5+ at Jared Goff at least 50% of the time. That's the number one thing you notice about this game, about his game: cerebral, accurate. But if he has to even remotely navigate the pocket, He's a polar opposite player. The Cowboys were rather aggressive early in that regard, or at least that's how it felt to me. We'll obviously go back and double check. But a double digit deficit in their first half changed the defensive blueprint, and that should not be the case. Especially not after you've seen your offense help you overcome a 21-point deficit just 2 weeks prior. It feels like Matt Eberflus should know better, right? Zack Sorenson obviously going to have to take a long, hard look in the mirror as well. That's another thing that I want to mention. Our special teams, in my mind, has every bit as much to do with this loss as the offense does. Turning the football over in the first half. How many times did we watch that Lions team start their possession, start their drive from the 40-yard line? I think all but two. I'm almost positive that that's exactly what happened. All but 2 times, the Lions started their possession from the 40-yard line or better, their own 40 or better. Those 2 times, guess what? That they didn't start their possession from their own 40-yard line when they had to travel, let's say, 70-plus yards to go and score. They didn't score touchdowns. We can actually go look this up. Let's look it up. Lions, Cowboys. Box score. Let's pull that up. Okay. First quarter. Okay, so the first possession of the game, the Lions started that drive from their own 36-yard line, 3 points. Okay? Second possession of the game. The Lions started that drive from their own 47. 0 points. Their third possession of the game, they started that drive from the Cowboys 38. That was after the Jake Ferguson fumble. Touchdown. All right, so 3 first quarter possessions. The first possession from their own 36-yard line. Less a field goal or less. All right. Their second possession from their own 47-yard line. 0 points. Okay, second quarter. Cowboys score a field goal. Brandon Aubrey kicked 63 yards from Cowboys 35 to the Detroit 2. Sailors to the Detroit 29 for 27 yards. Tackled by Brevin Spanford. The Cowboys get 3 points. They kick the football off. And that possession goes for a punt. 3 and out. Because the Lions got the football inside the 30-yard line. So 40 yards and in right now, the Cowboys are 2 of 3 for only 3 total points given up. Okay? Their next possession in the second quarter. This is just after the fumble. Okay, so the first one must have been after the interception. Second one was after the fumble. Okay, so this was after the fumble. Cowboys go 4 plays, 29 yards, fumble the football. Okay, Detroit takes over. Lions take over at their own 47 this time. 4 plays later, touchdown, though. That's after the Cowboys defense was just on the field 4 plays ago before they fumbled. All right, so now you're starting to get into time of possession issues when you're really making things difficult on yourself. All right, 9 total plays followed that one. It's actually a really good sustained drive by the Cowboys. Don't exactly remember what happened. Okay, that was the play. That was the drive when you had the penalty on Shamar James on the kickoff. Okay, when it was that was the whole offensive holding issue, you know. So Turpin's 42-yard gain gets negated, right? It's back. The ball goes all the way back to the Cowboys' 30-yard line. All right, so you lose 12 really significant yards right there because it's after a big play. So it's like you instantly kill your own momentum. Then you go 5-yard completion, 21-yard completion, 3-yard run, offsetting penalties, 3-yard run, 5-yard pass, incompletion, 15-yard penalty, 10-yard pass, 11-yard pass, field goal, good. So the one thing you notice there is 15-yard penalty and offsetting penalties. And then another 10-yard penalty. So three total penalties called on the Cowboys. Once again, whether you like it or dislike it, at that point in the football game, you're already down, multiple score affair, 17-9 technically, but you got to get a stop, score a touchdown, and then also go and get the 2-point conversion, right? So penalties killed you. 9 plays, 43 yards, 3 total penalties in that one. Brandon Aubrey kicks a field goal. Cowboys kick off to the Lions. This actually says 6 plays and 45 yards later, the Lions kicked another field goal. So this is to end the second quarter. This is the one when you had the really questionable pass interference call on Savon Rebel Jr. All these plays are actually kind of running. They're running. They're getting blended up into my head. But man, I don't know. The amount of short fields, though, you guys get the point, man. There's so many different short fields that just crippled you. Start the third quarter, you get a Jared Goff pass short left to Jameson Williams, pushed out of bounds at the Cowboys' 12-yard line for 2 yards. 1st and 10 from the Cowboys' 14-yard line. Of course you're going to give up a touchdown, right? I don't know. It just felt like you kept getting gashed on special teams in the kicking game for no reason. I don't know. Something was funny there to me. Something felt funny there. Mm. CeeDee Lamb had 100 and what? 20 yards to finish the football game. And he only played the first 2 quarters in full. I think he exited early in the third quarter, if I'm not mistaken. That's a critical loss, obviously. But the Cowboys had proven in weeks prior that they could win. They could win football games without CeeDee Lamb. George Pickens could operate as the true number one alpha wide receiver, could dominate and take over football games, and help claw you out of multiple touchdown deficits. But tonight we saw a couple more glimpses of the George Pickens that I tweeted about and made YouTube videos about, with he and CeeDee Lamb loafing without the football. We did see a little bit more of that. That is true. But I think I've since watched George Pickens play week over week and go and study his game and have realized that part of the way that you see him run routes, it may come off to the average viewer as lollygagging or loafing, lackadaisical. But it really actually plays into kind of who he is throughout the game, right? Part of his elite nature at his size, especially with that length that he possesses, is his ability to change and throttle through gears before and after he catches the football. I think that's part of what makes him so elite. So I think we have to be careful to some extent when evaluating and just singling out George Pickens in a matchup like that. When he fumbled too, but you weren't actually penalized for it. Dak Prescott threw an interception. Jake Ferguson fumbled. George Pickens didn't technically turn the football over. He's fighting for extra yards. He's getting long pass interference penalties called. That's another thing too. I didn't think Shoddy was really all that aggressive early on in that football game. If you guys know what I mean when I say that, like knowing how banged up, like Brian Branch was questionable, right? Never really in doubt to miss the game. I don't think anybody expected him to not play, but dealing with the toe and ankle injuries, not really practicing at all this week. Same thing with Amon-Ra St. Brown. They got Terrion Arnold over there on IR. And all kinds of other stuff going on. Their technical number 3 corner goes down 2 plays into the ball game. So they're reeling, and we're not testing that. Why aren't we testing that? Why? That might be my number one complaint. More so, like before I even get mad at Eberflus, because Eberflus' side of the ball, right? They weren't really given a ton of bones to play with and gnaw on. Where was the aggression? Where was Brian Schottenheimer leaning into his supreme advantage in any football game, but especially this one, when the Lions are dealing with their current defensive back situation, right? But I think it's fair to question or criticize George Pickens' effort to some degree. I know a lot of people are going to focus their time and energy on that. Once again, no CeeDee Lamb at the time of his departure, you're down multiple scores. The odds are stacked against you anyway. So if you're mad at George Pickens for the effort that he may or may not have displayed from the third quarter on, you better first be acknowledging the other things that we just spent the first 35 plus minutes of this show talking about. What is our kick coverage doing? Let me just show y'all something real quick. I'm getting there. Give me a second. Anybody ever heard of Tom Kennedy? This guy right here. Why is this guy going crazy in the return game? Undrafted free agent. Third season out of Bryant College. Bryant. Tom Kennedy. Looks like your local grocery delivery boy. 5'10", 195 pounds. Why is he doing things that my $19 million player, Kevontae Turpin, is supposed to be doing? Why is my $19 million player continuing to fake fair catch in attempt to return the football? Why is he fumbling last week? You know, I'm one of the guys that's standing 10 toes down on this dude. Telling y'all, stop getting him the ball going east and west. I'm calling out Hall of Fame legends, GOATs from this sport that we play. Tom Brady, for saying in the game 2 weeks ago against the Eagles, or whenever I think it was, the Eagles game, when he fumbled. Tom Brady said it was silly for the Cowboys to get him the football out of the backfield anyway. No, it wasn't the direction, what they did. Kevontae Turpin lining up as the lone setback is what more closely simulates what he sees in the return game, period. It's not going east to west. He doesn't run sideways when he catches punts and catches kicks, especially in the kicking game. The punt game is sometimes a little bit different. But even still, defenses are built to take that away now. It's not the same advantage that it used to be. Okay? Hybridized defenses. We talk about this every week. But the real issue that the Cowboys had against the Eagles was asking him to re-kick and have him go catch the football in critical situations and not like he's clearly pressing, right? Trying to do a lot. And I respect it. It's an admirable trait that he possesses. He's trying to make the game-changing play every single time he touches the ball. I respect that out of him. I love that about him. It's part of why he's got $19 million in his bank account right now. It's really not that. It's as we talked about, he could actually be released after this year if the Cowboys wanted to save some money. Because most of that extended, or that 3-year, $19 million extension is not guaranteed. We can look it up. I kept saying 19, didn't I? Did I say 19? For some reason, I thought it was a $19 million deal. I guess it was only 3 years, $13.5 million. So I apologize for anybody who's been sitting there cringing. And I know some of you guys were frustrated with me saying that. So that's my fault. I don't know why I thought 18. But point being, 3 years, $13.5 million. Okay. The total guarantees were 1/3 of that amount. $5 million total guaranteed. And just to give you an idea, and just only because I mentioned it, I'm not saying I want him cut at all. I want him to be here. I want him to be a part of this team. I'm just showing you, these are just the intricacies of what we do here. So not everybody talks about this stuff. So I just want you guys to know, like, because I know some people are going to be overreacting and saying, keep Kevontae Turpin off the field, cut him, like, don't have him as a part of your future plan, whatever. You're going to overreact, in my opinion. Okay, that's not where I'm at. I don't feel that way at all. We're just having a conversation. That's it. All right, so just make sure y'all know that. Okay, overthecap.com will tell us. I'll show it to you guys here so y'all can see. Yeah, right here. Get out of there. So, okay, as you can see, the Cowboys currently this year are carrying a $3.1 million cap number for Kevontae Turpin. They signed him to a 3-year, $13.5 million extension. So that takes us through the 2027 calendar year. All right. But as you'll see, if you post June 1, cut him, actually doesn't really change the figures all that much. So because of the guarantees, the Cowboys are actually now that I look at this, they're more encouraged to keep it, right. Like it wouldn't save them any money really at all to cut him, right? You're better off just having him on the books for $4.5 million and $5.5 million for the next 2 years, respectively, as opposed to cutting him and saving half that, right? That those couple $1,000,000, you're not changing, none of that's changing your outcome of your season. All right. So that's pointless. Forget that we even had that conversation. Okay. We're going to wipe that from the ether. It doesn't exist anymore. But as we know, special teams, man, those can swing games for you. And I feel like in a lot of ways tonight, the Cowboys swung this game out of their own favor just by their special teams, like their kick coverage ability or their lack thereof. It seemed weird tonight. It seemed oddly, whoever the Lions special teams coordinator, let's give him the credit that he deserves. Dave Phipp. That guy deserves to have his name mentioned tonight. I'm gonna go back and watch each respective instance, right? Every kick coverage and every kick return for the Cowboys, punt or kick. I'm gonna watch them. I'm gonna see what the heck was going on and why we were so badly outcoached in that regard. That's gonna be interesting to watch and break down. I'm excited to do that. But yeah. Felt like the Cowboys also, in some regards, abandoned the run a little bit sooner than they probably should have. What did Javonte Williams average even tonight? 17 total carries. For 67 yards, 3.9 yards per carry. Yeah. 20 total non-quarterback carries. Actually, 21 if you include Cavante Turpin. 24 total if you include Dak scrambles. But we won't. Just eliminate his 3 carries for 14 yards, and you really have 21 carries for about 75 yards. It's about 3.5 yards a carry for the Cowboys tonight. And that's just usually not going to win you football games. So that was tough. And that was actually kind of surprising to see. I thought that they would have some more success running the football. But, of course, a lot of that has to do with, once again, you lose the turnover margin, especially that early. You end up having to forfeit a lot of what you came into the game preparing to do. And I admit that. I'll concede there. And then you lose CeeDee Lamb, and they have more success manning up and playing heavier boxes to make sure that you don't just average 6 yards a carry on them. They're more confident on the perimeter, bracketing George Pickens and basically ISOing everywhere else. And their edges are having success against Terence Steele and Nate Thomas. Life is tough when you're asked to drop back and throw the football 47, almost 50 times like Dak Prescott was tonight. Yeah. It was a gut check, I thought, in a lot of ways. Had every opportunity to go and take advantage of the momentum and keep themselves pressuring the Eagles to go and take care of business and eliminate their current 2-game slide. The Cowboys didn't do it. So even still, it felt like it felt like even there was, despite all the things that we just broke down, it felt like the fight was still there to a degree, more so than it otherwise would have been in recent history and games like this. I feel like they fought for most of the fourth quarters, and part of their comeback efforts were eradicated by some weird penalty calls. But I think both teams benefited from a poorly officiated football game. And like I said, the officiating wasn't what got you into that deficit in the first place, in my opinion. I don't think that was the case at all. But yeah, I think that's all I got, man. I need to think about this a little bit more. Obviously, go watch it a few more times, and I'll have more information. But those are just the preliminary thoughts. I thought one team played like the blue collar caliber team that they are. They embodied their head coach and Dan Campbell, and they won the effort battle, especially at the point of attack. Cowboys didn't dominate up front tonight, but they also didn't dominate with aggression and game plan and sustaining confidence in their edge, their perimeter players on both sides of the ball against inferior talent. And I say inferior talent for the Cowboys defense, overbearing, or having the ability to match up well with the Detroit Lions offensive skill personnel, with the anticipation and understanding that at best, Amon-Ra St. Brown was going to be 70% of himself. Liked us being able to bracket either Jameson Williams or Isaac Tesla, whoever they felt necessary in that specific moment, and manning up with the aforementioned or other guy in any other circumstance. And we should be able to bracket Jameson Williams, get hands on him with a physical corner like Savone Revel Jr. at the line of scrimmage, and bracket him with, say, Malik Hooker over top. And we should feel confident with a third-round rookie, Isaac Tesla, lining up against an all-pro DeRon Bland, wherever that may be. Khalif Raymond wasn't out there tonight. Tim Kennedy was out there catching a couple passes tonight. They had 3 tight ends on IR. Dan Skipper, their swing tackle, their jumbo package, that was kind of their default counter to their offensive injuries. And I thought if any team in the National Football League matched up well with a 6 offensive line approach and a team with really only one true threat or proven threat, that one guy that you have to respect and game plan for, if your top 2 pass catchers are out, which that didn't end up being the case, but this is how I went into that ball game, thinking you have 3 $20+ million defensive tackles. You can play all 3 of them at the same time and still feel confident. Because they're oftentimes lining up 6 offensive linemen. So you're even encouraged to play to the strength of your roster, and you still lost the battle at the point of attack. That's what my gut told me. A couple guys got held, a couple guys slipped early on that could have potential for negative plays, But it felt like one team out-efforted, out-blue-collared the other, out-desperated the other tonight. And one team didn't take care of the football, and that was ultimately the difference. Special teams, you had a significant disadvantage in the kick coverage game for whatever reason. George Pickens didn't play as inspired as you would have liked to have seen him play. But he wasn't the reason why you got into that deficit. He by himself can't claw you out of it. This is ultimate team sport here. I felt like Shotty he lacked aggression early on. They didn't display the confidence that a team that just took down the Chiefs, consecutive opponents, took down the last 3 Super Bowl champions in 4 days. But it was more of a conservative approach. Matt Eberflus doesn't trust his man cover corners to play man coverage. I'm frustrated with that. I'm very frustrated with that. I have to go back and look, man. I'm not exactly sure. I think this game just felt funny in a lot of different ways. It felt weird. We'll leave it at that. All right. That's all I got. Talk to you guys soon, man. But I'm excited to touch back on this and expand upon this and see how you guys feel about it. I know the comments are going to be crazy, but I'm excited to look. Help us keep pushing. Trying to get to 10K before season's end. I think we can do it, especially if the Cowboys continue, staying hot. They look good next week. Maybe finish this thing off with a 4-game win streak would be nice. They'll probably be favorited, you would think, in all 4 of their remaining games, considering the next 2 are at home beginning 10 days from now. Lots of time to prepare, look themselves in the mirror, figure things out. CeeDee Lamb will be back, obviously. Be at full strength, ideally. And have a chance, man. Just finish strong. See what happens. 10 wins usually gives you a chance. All right, remember, this is the Lando Show where we are passionate about creatively conveying the truth for the true fan. Folks like you guys who are in here with me. Some of you would have been here had I gone live at as late as I did, about 11 p.m. Game ended kind of late, so I didn't have that much time, but ended up just recording because I knew, like I said, most people are in bed on a Thursday night. Needless to say, I'm excited to see what you guys have to say tomorrow. I'm excited to see what the pulse of the nation is. I'm excited to see who most people are blaming for this loss. There's lots to discuss, lots to talk about. All right, but I appreciate you guys tuning in. Thanks for watching. It's gonna be all right. Sky's not falling. Still have 2 first-round draft picks at worst to look forward to. 4 games from here on out, though. 4 games to enjoy. 4 wins could technically put you in the postseason picture. About 10% chance, but you never know what can happen. In the National Football League, any given Sunday, anything goes. Right? All right. That's it. Remember, prayer changes things and the war's already won. Talk to you guys soon.